Hey, it's Mieke and Maddy from Thriving Mindset, your go-to pass. Hey, it's Mieke and Maddy from Thriving Mindset, your go-to podcast for real talk, deep growth, and tools to empower you to thrive. From challenges, dealing with self-doubt, fears, to breakthroughs, we've been there, and we're here to share what we've learned along the way. So, I'm so excited about today's episode because it really perfectly ties into the theme of my life right now. We're going to be speaking about you're not late to have radical trust in your own timeline. And for so long, I felt like I was behind. Like I needed to already be there in order to to be worthy or in order to feel good about myself. And the truth is, none of us are late. We're exactly where we need to be, and the journey itself is actually what makes us thrive. And that's something that we're going to be looking at today. So, in this episode, we explore why we feel so much pressure to arrive, like at success or to arrive where we think we're supposed to be, and what actually the hidden cost is of rushing your own timeline. And we're gonna also look at like societal standards, and we're gonna also like look at what actually shapes your expectations. We're also gonna look at like kind of like how we can practice patience, and yeah. So I would say let's tune in. Let's explore the topic of you are not late. Let's have some radical trust in our own timeline. And I want to start with you, Maddie, because I would love to hear from you a time when you thought you were actually late, but in hindsight, the timing was just actually perfect. Yeah, tell me what comes to mind.
Sure. So the first thing that came into my mind was actually a few years ago, right? I always share this story, but it was just like the biggest turning point in my life. But when I left the corporate world and went on a journey of finding out what I really want in life and in my career. And so I was already in my 30s, right? So I did this PhD. I tried out working in the corporate world. It wasn't for me. And then I was like, well, I was on sick leave. Um, I quit my job and then I was like, what am I going to do? Right.
Mhm.
So in the end, I ventured into coaching. But I remember then I was like, I'm already in my 30s. I've spent so
Yeah.
much time investing in career paths. And now I want to start something entirely new. um, so I didn't have any, so I was thinking, oh, I want to like try out coaching. But I had no prior experience, I had no certification. So it really felt like starting over and doing
Mhm.
that in my 30s. I really did feel like, oh, I'm kind of late. I was looking and comparing like with my friends and I were like, okay, they've already been on this career path for, I don't know, like 10 years. They're like leveling up, getting promoted. And me, I want to start something new. So that's definitely what I felt like, ooh, I kind of feel behind. But in hindsight, I actually realized that I needed to go through my experience of doing this PhD and trying the corporate world to really become aware of what I want in my life and become aware of what I don't want in my life. So in hindsight, I can say that there were lessons that I had to learn.
Mm.
Like, for instance, one of the most important lessons was don't do what others expect of you,
Mhm.
but follow your heart instead, right? So I think like really do like going through these detours of doing a PhD and getting into the corporate world, these were all necessary redirections for me. And I also want to add that even right now, I still feel at times like I am behind, right? Um, because there, like, I have a huge vision. I have so many
Mm.
milestones and things that I want to achieve, and I'm like, I'm, I'm also personally not the most patient person on earth, right? So I'm like, oh, but I want to be there already, right? It's part of my nature. Like I'm fully aware of it, and I'm like, why am I not there already, right? It's
Mm.
normal to have thoughts and be like, oh, I could be there already. What if I already reached that milestone? But then I also remind myself and always try to remember I have a life I love so much right now. I have so much to be grateful for, and I've experienced so much and so many magical and beautiful moments in the past years. And it really, really doesn't matter if creating my vision takes a little longer than expected or than I would like it to. And I
Mhm.
really try to focus on enjoying the journey without obsessing on the outcome or like this version of success that I've built, like all of these ideas. Because in the end, I do truly believe that things are unfolding exactly as they should. And the detours and the delays are just part of my journey. And they mean whenever there's a delay or a detour, I do believe that there are lessons to be learned. And I think that when we let go of beliefs around which milestones we should achieve by a certain age, we can really work on
Mhm.
freeing ourselves from feeling late. And I'd love also to hear from you, of course. Like, when did you in life feel like you were late? And in hindsight, maybe realized, oh, I wasn't late at all. Maybe the timing was perfect after all.
You know, this is so cool because I wrote down like 4 points that you mentioned, and I can relate 100% to them because I'm also a super impatient person. For me, it's so hard to, yeah, it's so hard to kind of be like, okay, I'm gonna, just wait this out, or I know it's a delay, it's a detour, there's a lesson I have to learn, or whatever. So, yeah, so I'm also at heart a person that's always, I'm also super quick, and I'm always like, "Da, da, da, do this and do
Yeah,
that." So it's hard for me
same.
to, yeah, to be kind of like, okay, let's wait this out, and what am I going to learn from this situation? But the beautiful thing is, and that's what I just had to think about is, so I also mentioned before that for me in my end 20s, I kind of found my passion, right? And before I didn't have that like passion. I just kind of felt like I had a life that was on autopilot. And I never had the feeling that I was late in that time. I was always just kind of like flat. And only when I really started caring about my mission, about my life, and da da da, that's when this kind of impatience started kicking in. And what you just mentioned is like you having this huge vision, right? So only when I started having visions for myself, I started getting impatient, which is beautiful again, right? So it's really like only when I really cared about my time and da 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 and stuff, I really felt like I was kind of lacking behind or whatever. So I guess the it's the that's the beauty or the duality again about life. It's like this like thing of like being impatient, but why are you impatient? Because you care so much, because you want to, you want this vision to come true. You want this life to happen. You want to help these kind of people. You want this kind of life for yourself. So that's actually again a beautiful thing to have. So I think that just when you just told yeah, it just told us about like the story of like where you felt behind, left like you were playing well, where you felt like you were lacking, whatever, falling behind. That's the word I was looking for. That just, yeah, reminded me of that. It's a really really nice thing to have because we care about like the time that we want. And yeah, so I think that's actually, yeah, something really nice. And also in like preparing this episode, we wanted to look at like this like why do we feel so much pressure to already be there, right? And what's kind of the hidden cost about like this kind of rushing and stuff. And I think it ties into what I just said because it's kind of like, I think it's like this mixture of things because it's, we live in a society that where everything is about time, right? And it is kind of, it's like you should have your career by then, you should have children by then, you should have, you should, and it's always tied to these like kind of time concepts. And I feel like it's, I don't want to say it's like fake standards of being or how things should be, but it is deeply ingrained into us, and it's not a one size fits all kind of timeline, right? And one of the like great, I don't know, scholars I would call him, or somebody that I really admire from the education field, Ken Robinson, and I've mentioned him before as well. He's the one who got me into education, not he personally, I never met him personally, but his TED talk was amazing.
Inspired you.
Yeah, he really, really inspired me. And unfortunately, he passed away, but he's a super, I mean, I really recommend looking into him. And he has this great talk about what actually our school system is. And because if we look at like kind of like this like pressure to already be there, it's we're being taught like at a very young age that school starts from this age. You have to be this age to be in this grade. You have to start at this time, and your school class goes 45 minutes or 1.5 hours, your curriculum and so on. So we're very like it's already starts at a very young age that we are, it's all about time. And oh my god, you skipped the class, amazing. Oh my god, you stayed behind a year, ooh, I don't know. So it's really like everything's all about like this like kind of like time pattern. um and I feel like time is anyway, it's like this, it goes through our entire like societal structure, right? It's for example, like in life and in like in general, I'm just gonna say general life, it's like you're being rewarded to be young, for example, and it's an amazing thing to be young, you know, to be youthful. It's like that's when you have your most brightest ideas or whatever, and you're beautiful and da 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 and stuff. So I feel like also maybe the older you get, the more you're rushing, and you're like, oh my god, am I still young? Am I old? What am I? Da da da, and I need to get these things done and stuff. I wouldn't say it's consciously, because I don't consciously sit there and I'm like, oh, I'm getting old and I need to finish these things. But maybe there's also deeper, like subconscious, like kind of way of like why we have the sense of time. And I think it's in a lot of like isn't it like also in a lot of Asian cultures, it's the novelty of actually like the respect for elders because they have so much wisdom and knowledge and so on. And I feel like in a lot of our societal like world or something, we've lost that kind of like sense for how beautiful it is to age and to bring that wisdom and so on. And yeah, so I feel like that's why where all this pressure comes from. And of course, the hidden cost is constantly spending energy on thinking you need to be there rather than spending the energy on doing or something, or spending energy on like yeah, achieving your goals or something. You spend more energy on thinking, why haven't I done this goal yet, why am I doing this or that and so on. So yeah, that's kind of, I feel like, yeah, that's definitely a big portion of where this pressure comes from.
And I love what you said. I think like just like the concept of time is so deeply ingrained in everyday life, right? Our day starts like that. It's like
Mm.
the alarm clock goes on, there is a
Yeah,
time, and you're like, oh, okay, by then I have to start work. Then you have lunch break, you have meeting at this time, and in the
yeah,
evening. So everything is like kind of scheduled. So we think about time all of the time. So it's like so normal for us to, yeah, to think in terms of time. How much time do I have for this? How much time do I have that? um, and I also believe that there is a lot of like glorifying, especially when it comes to women. I feel
mm,
like glorifying youth, like
mm,
young women are more beautiful, they are more energized, they are more desired by men. I don't know,
yeah,
perceived as more valuable. So I definitely think also like through the media and like growing up, like there is, yeah, there is this aspect of like young is kind of good,
yeah, and
and
it is
old
good.
maybe sometimes not so good,
Yeah,
right?
and young,
um,
being young is good and it is great, right? And I think it's so important not to bash it or something, but equally, any age is good at any like kind of life phase you go through, right? Yeah.
Exactly, because as you've pointed out, like the beauty of becoming older is you can, if you do the inner work, become wiser. You have more life experience. You can become more grounded.
Yeah.
You can know yourself better, right? So there are like different life phases are different. Um, it's not black and white. It's not like young is good, old is bad. But again, like there are so many reasons, I think societal reasons and messages that we receive that make us really focus on time and our age.
Yeah.
um, I think for me personally, I would like to add that I think the root cause of this pressure that so many of us feel to be there already, to be successful,
Mm.
to have a partner at a certain age, to have kids, whatever these goals or milestones are, the root cause is actually nothing else but beliefs that we
Mhm.
internalized throughout our lives, right? So we internalize tons of beliefs, most of them during our childhood. So a lot of the beliefs that we internalize actually come from our parents, but also the larger society or culture that we grow up in.
Yeah.
And when we let go of these beliefs around which milestones we should achieve by a certain age, that's when we can really free ourselves from the pressure and stress of feeling late. So, in the end, I do believe the root cause, again, of feeling this pressure is always beliefs. And how do you overcome it? You need to work on your mindset. And I
Yeah.
think another common thing that intensifies the pressure that so many of us feel, and I can also say that this applies to me as well, what really intensifies the pressure is when you compare your journey to others,
Mm.
your milestones to others. And then you look around and you're like, this friend already bought a house. That friend, I don't know, married. This friend's business is going well. This
Mhm.
friend, like, or this cousin, or whoever, or my sister, my brother, whatever, right? So whenever we compare our journeys and our milestones to others, and we kind of perceive it as, oh, they've achieved more milestones than we did, that can really add to or contribute to us feeling even more pressure and like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe I'm late. Why have I not achieved these milestones yet? And I believe the hidden cost of really holding on to these beliefs that we should achieve certain milestones by a certain age is the biggest the biggest hidden cost, I believe, is not being able to enjoy your journey at the
Mm-hmm.
present moment,
Mm.
right? Because whenever we feel this pressure, our mind is not focused and our heart is not focused on the present moment. We're really focused on the future
Yeah.
and what am I lacking, right? What have I not achieved yet? Instead of really appreciating what we have right now. And this, of course, can lead us to feel unfulfilled, to feel stressed, maybe even anxious, and really not being able to thrive. So, making decisions that are not aligned with what you want, right? Due to, making fear based decisions, for instead of surrendering and trusting your intuition, that's really when we get off the path of thriving. Because in the end, our podcast is all about thriving, right? So I think, yeah, being to sum it up, it's always the psychological root cause of why we give ourselves these pressures is limiting beliefs, and what makes it even worse is always comparing our journey and the milestones we've achieved with others.
And I think that's so it's so important that you just mentioned the milestones because like who even sets these milestones, right? Like who
Right.
even says that having a house is amazing, that getting married, look at divorce rates, no offense, but like it's kind of like who even says that these are the milestones that anyone should anyone should achieve or something. Yeah.
Right, and getting back to, I think you mentioned this expression before, like, there's no one size fits all solution, right? Just because something like some milestones are great for this person doesn't mean that I have to adopt the same milestones. They might not make me happy, right? So everyone is different, everyone is unique. So this also means that every path, every journey is unique. So every journey is not really comparable in that sense.
And
And I
just
think it's
and just because somebody hit that milestone doesn't mean they're happy. That's the other thing. It's like
exactly.
even if you have a house, maybe you're really unhappy because you don't have a nice house or whatever it is. So it's really, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's also so easy to really focus and compare our journeys and then be like, oh, this person has that. This person looks so great on social media, so happy. Like there's a video of them in a villa or like traveling or whatever. But then again, we also know that a lot of people on social media they just show the
Yeah,
shiny, bright
of
aspects
course.
of their lives, but you never know what's really going on inside. And a lot of times, I think that there's a lot of like also like suffering and pain that's happening that people just simply don't share as much. So it's easier to feel bad about yourself and be like, this person has it all and looks so happy without realizing, oh, maybe I might even be happier than that person who has achieved a certain level of success on the outside.
And that's the
And
duality of life again. It's like, it's
right.
like that milestone that you're supposed to hit, but maybe you're not even happy about it, and you have a different milestone that that person would be happy about. So it's really, yeah. Yeah, it's a I don't know, I was gonna say it's a mad world, but it's a very beautiful mad world. So it's not like it's like yeah, I didn't want to be a downer on it. But yeah, it's that's what also that we talk about a lot in our podcast, right? It's like these all these different sides and shades of kind of like being and yeah.
And also, which reminds me of, we talked about it in a previous episode, um, your version of success can also change throughout
Mm,
your life, right? Like, and we shared that it was the same for us. What we thought being successful looks like maybe 5 or 10 years ago was very different from what we now define as success. So it's also really encouraging, I think, always to remind yourself, like, no, you can create your own version of success. What makes someone else
yeah.
happy might not make you happy. So be courageous, be brave to really know yourself and to dream big, do big, have these big visions that are really in alignment with who you are, with
Mhm.
your values and your truth, instead of looking at outside sources and comparing with other people. Because,
But
yeah,
that's super cool because I mean, if success isn't about like being on time, but actually it would be about being on your time, like how would that change the way we measure our progress?
I think it would change the way we measure our progress in a massive way.
Yeah.
So I like really, I think if we really embrace the idea that success isn't about being on time, but
Yeah.
being on our own time, it would completely change how we measure progress. So instead of constantly comparing ourselves to what others have already achieved or judge ourselves based on parental expectations, societal expectations, or milestones based on beliefs, we'd really start asking more personal and empowering questions to ourselves.
Yeah.
So instead of asking like, um, have I do I have this income or by this age? Like, do I have a I don't know loving relationship? Am I married by this age? Instead of asking these questions, we would ask questions like, am I aligned with what truly matters to me? Am I living within alignment with my core values? Do I like who I am right now? Do I like who I am becoming? Do I like what I'm doing and how I do things? And am I creating a life aligned with my larger goals, my dreams, my vision? And I think this shifts progress away from external checklists and societal
Hmm.
timelines, like having a certain career, relationship, level of success by a certain age, into something much more personalistic. And I think this empowers us to see progress about depth and alignment,
Mm.
not deadlines. And alignment, as we always highlight and say and emphasize, is the key to thriving in life. So, to me personally, radical trust in your own timeline means believing that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, even if it looks slower or different from someone else's path. And even if you make decisions that others don't fully understand or agree with. So, radical trust in essence is fully believing in yourself and your timeline without doubt.
Hmm.
And it's really about not letting these worries or doubts or fears get in your way of achieving what you want in life and really doing things your own way, according to your own timeline. So, this is why, for me, I'd say radical trust also means radical empowerment.
Hmm.
And when you measure progress based on alignment rather than milestones and deadlines, every step counts. Even the pauses, the breaks, the detours, the delays, the perceived mistakes and failures that are all part of this messy but also beautiful journey because they're really part of your own unique unfolding of your journey. And I also want to emphasize, right? There are so many late success stories of others that can
Mm.
inspire us to give us hope in moments of self doubt and anxiety, right? Just to give you an example, like Vera Wang, she designed her first dress. I didn't know that at the age of 40.
Yeah, cool.
And now today she's one of the most famous iconic fashion designers in the world.
Mm.
Or everyone knows KFC these days, right?
Unfortunately.
We always know KFCs, right, in most countries at least. And the founder, he actually started KFC at the age of 65
Oh, that's cool.
after so many years of failures and odd jobs. And a lot of people might think like 65, that's too old to chase your dreams. It's like, no, there are so many more examples of inspiring people having achieved their dreams at a later stage in life. So we each really do have unique paths. So instead of comparing our journeys with others, based on certain milestones, I believe that we should really work towards what we want in life by aligning with it and really radically, like, really have the courage to trust that things are going to work out no matter how old you are, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s,
Hey.
because that is the mindset that you will need to succeed, to really believe that your time is going to come.
So good. And it's really like all these different, so first all the examples that you mentioned, it's so important that there is no like this is the way to live your life and this is when you're going to be successful or anything. And I think if you the most founder stories you read, there's so many, like it's never about the successes, it's how many times have you failed and then gotten back up. So that's like kind of always because there's so many, yeah, so many stories. We only see again the tip of the iceberg of like somebody who
Right.
succeeded, but what about all those failures and stuff, and that also all had to take take its time, and it's the ones that persevered and really learned from those failures, that learned the lessons and so on, and kept going and built like the strength to do it. Those are the ones that will be successful. And then again, what is success, right? So you define it, you say what's successful to you, right? So yeah, that's really really important. One thing I wanted to add, because you used the word like radical trust and radical acceptance, and I think that's she's such a beautiful author, Tara Brach. Look at us, we're just throwing out all these names today, which is really nice, which we should share more, right? I think that's so good. But I just had to think about it. She has a book, so Tara Brach, she has a book. It's called Radical Acceptance, and it actually talks about this whole theme of like to radically accept your situations, to radically accept like what's going on in your life, that where you are at that moment and so on, and how you feel and so on. And only through this acceptance you can actually change. So I think that's also for the whole timeline debate. It's really to, no matter where you are, to just pause it, accept it, and then be like, okay, cool. I wish I was married now. I wish I had a house and so on. If these are your desires, then accept that you don't have them at the moment, and then sit down and think about how can I get them, and what steps do I need to kind of take. Yeah, so that I just had to think about that. One
I
thing, sorry, go.
Yeah, I love that. And it brings us back to mindfulness is basically
Mm,
radical acceptance, right? And we've also talked about it in previous episodes, right? As soon as you don't accept your situation, you begin to resist,
mm-hmm.
whether it's your circumstances, yourself, or other people. And the price you are paying is you're not being able to enjoy the present moment where you are currently on your journey. So definitely, I think radical acceptance is such an important aspect of radical trust in your own timeline. So thank you so much for pointing that out.
And
Definitely.
one more thing I wanted to say, I recently had a conversation with somebody, and it was really, really a dear, dear person to me. And it was such a nice conversation because he spoke about something which I wasn't I didn't even know that he was like into it. That was kind of, so it was so nice to hear it from like somebody who's very rational, who's very like kind of not, and like talking about alignment of values and so on. But we talked about Taoism, right? And Taoism is all about like kind of the flow of life, and that there's this flow. I'm not going to explain Taoism because any Taoist would
Yeah.
now be like, excuse me, but I'm just going to, kind of just to briefly say what we talked about. And yeah, so it's like that the life is like kind of like this flow, and that it's like a river. You have to imagine it like a river. And every time something comes in your way, and you fight it, you use that energy not to flow, but you use the energy to fight that thing. And I thought that was so cool, because if you flow through life and you're like, okay, I want to have a house, I want to have this and so on, and then you're like, oh, I don't have a house, and then you fight that, oh, I don't have a house, that's horrible, I'm so sad. You use your energy for that and not to keep flowing to get your house, kind of. So yeah, I thought that was yeah, I just had to think about that conversation. That was very beautiful. Yeah.
It's very beautiful,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely, right? Radically accepting where you are and honoring your journey and where you are currently right now is key also to getting to into that flow state instead of like resisting and reinforcing stress, anxiety, frustration, and whatnot. So I also have another question for you
Mhm.
actually. So I'd love to hear your perspective on what role does
No.
patience play in long-term success, and how can we practice it without feeling stagnant? Such an important question, especially since we've both just shared that we're not the most patient
Yeah.
people, but patience is really important, right? So maybe can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, I think it's the perfect question for me, because I really have a hard time with patience, and it's really something that I'm still learning so much, and it's yeah, and that's okay, and I'm okay with it, and I'm aware of it. But yeah, so I think patience is really actually everything, and it's like, so let's start big in a way. And what I mean with it is that it's it starts with, it's a reminder, right? So first, it's kind of a reminder that the standards that maybe you set yourself aren't existent. So kind of having this patience of being like, okay, I want to have a successful company, I want to have 20 people in my team and so on. And it's kind of like, to have that patience and be like, okay, I accept it, that's, I'm not there right now. It's not existent yet, and it's only a limit in my own head. So that's why I feel like patience is, yeah, such an important like key aspect to actually have, or to learn in a way. And patience is also It's like it really is your biggest friends. And I feel like people that have mastered patience, like really have mastered patience, they have this zenness to them, right? Because it's kind of, it cannot, nothing can knock you over, not nothing, but hardly something can knock you over, because you kind of, you've learned to, you've kind of learned to, because let's look at patience for a second. What is patience actually, I think it would be interesting to get a definition out, but I'm not going to start Googling now for a definition because then it'll go too far. But still, like, what is actually, what is, the concept of patience. And that's why I think people that have mastered like this patience, they can, nothing can knock them over, and they're kind of like, I've got this, I'm where I need to be right now. Anything that like kind of like is spiraling around me or is telling me do this, do that, or whatever, no, I can rely on my own patience to kind of like be okay with, yeah, where I am. So I think it's, as I mentioned before with the example of like Taoism, that it's like rather than like spending your energy or thoughts on how you want things to go, that you take that energy and use it for something more productive. And productive, I know, is not the best word in the sense, but kind of to use it for something more beneficial to you or whatever you want to call it. And that if that you then you say, okay, I am impatient, but I'm going to use that energy not to think about I'm impatient, but I'm going to use it to um, do the first steps of writing my course that I want to write. I'm going to start writing this concept paper, or authors of books, they say the best tip that any writer can get is just start and write half a page, and even if it's just half a page, to kind of to get that, like, yeah, to get going. And for me personally, how do I practice patience? Um, as you can see, there's no, I'm not going to be able to give you the perfect answer now because I still haven't mastered it. And for me, it feels like a constant reminder, that I really have to constantly remind myself to be patient. So that's kind of like, I practice it by making myself aware of my impatience, and that I like through, let's say, through mantras. I mean, mantras, I think, are, of course, there's like mantras in the sense of like when Buddhist monks chant mantras or whatever. That's a beautiful thing, but that's not what I do. But it's more like kind of like we said, mindfulness, like through mindfulness, through like kind of like being aware there's impatience, to just kind of like go in my head and be like, okay, I'm impatient right now. And then to remind myself, and then be like, it's okay, be patient, it's okay, just wait, there's a lesson that can be learned from this, to repeat kind of this story to myself, rather than having the story of, I want to be there and there. um, so yeah, so I just name it, I'm impatient and I would really benefit from being patient now. So it's kind of like, I guess I speak to my own little inner child that's impatient, that I kind of say, it's okay, you can have that ice cream later. We need to, kind of figure out first how we can get to that ice cream. And also, what I really like is like to rephrase situations. So my husband, he used to live, or he used to like be in Spain, and like his Spanish friend once said to him, that, because we Germans are known to be more impatient versus, or yeah, that's what he kind of, he's like, okay, but he said to him, like, kind of, you should remember that somebody is giving you a present, and that present is time. And I thought that was actually really nice, because, like, for example, if you're standing in a line and it's a long line, you can get pissed off and be like, oh, it's a long line, I need to get there, I need to do this and that. Or you can see it as a gift that you're being given time to just chill. And so what my husband and I, what we do now always is like, if there's a long line or we have to wait, we're like, hey, cool, we're being given a present. So it's kind of like, so that's what I mean with rephrase it. And yeah, of course, it's not, doesn't always work. And I think it's also okay to be impatient at times, by the way, because, there's nothing, it's not like, it doesn't always have to be like completely wrong to be impatient, but it's just probably 9 out of 10 times it's more beneficial to just be like, it's fine, I'm gonna wait this out and be patient about it. Yeah. How about you? I think you probably also have a few nice tips of how to like train your patience. Yeah.
First of all, like I love what you just shared, especially like there's the Spanish friend that was like, "Hey, think of it as a gift,
Yeah.
when you have to queue for too long or the bus is like late, like you
Yeah.
are given the present of a few extra minutes." That's such a beautiful way. Like
Yeah.
always shifting your perspective, I think is always very, very powerful. When you spoke, I really had to think of the quote that I really like, energy goes where attention flows.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we focus on I don't have this yet, or oh I'm losing time, or like
Yeah.
all of the negative things, that's what you're inviting into your life, and that's more of what you're creating in your own life. So shifting your perspective is always very, very powerful, right?
Yeah.
So if you use that impatience, I think that's maybe what you were trying to get at. Like if we are impatient and then we focus on the negative aspects and we're stressed and frustrated and anxious, obviously not a very positive or healthy to deal with it. But if we use this impatience to as fuel to motivate us to take action to really create what we want in a positive way, and instead of focusing on the lack, we focus on what we can do and what we can change and what we can control. My mindset, my actions, the way I show up, the energy that I bring, right? Then impatience can also be a positive thing, but only if we use it as fuel.
Yeah.
So I think that was really nice to really remind ourselves, like, okay, when you catch yourself being impatient, we don't have to judge ourselves. As you rightly pointed out, it's always lovely to view yourself through a mindful, compassionate lens instead of judging yourself, just accepting it, naming it, being aware, okay, I am impatient right now. And then what can I do to release the impatience? Or what can I do to transform this impatience into fuel and to change things?
Yeah.
Also
That's
very
cool.
positive. So I think there are two positive ways that we can actually deal with impatience. Um, since our since today's episode is all about radical trust, like trusting in your own timeline, I strongly do believe that trusting in your own
Mm.
timeline does lead to patience. Um, so for me, as I've also shared, like naturally, I'm not the most patient person, but what works really, really well for me is really cultivating this deep self trust and self belief. And as you've also shared, it's a constant reminder, right? Because of course I catch myself and I'm like, oh, why didn't I finish this? Like, why did I miss this deadline? Like, why didn't I, whatever, like achieve this milestone by then and then? But then I always remind myself, and I love using this positive affirmation that I've also shared before. Things are unfolding for my highest good,
Oh,
and things are going to work out. And if things don't work out, or whenever things don't work out in between, when you're working on achieving your goals, your dreams, and your visions, and you might feel like a failure or like you're late, then I think it's really powerful to just remind yourself that this doesn't mean that you're not going to achieve your vision or your goal. It just means that there is a delay.
hmm,
And the detours, the delays, the challenges, the hardships, the perceived mistakes and failures, they're all just learnings and lessons and redirections that can empower you to realign with what you want. So I think this is the most powerful mindset shift that really was a game changer for me, which really helped me to become much, much, much more patient and easy going in life, and not be so harsh on myself whenever I catch myself like judging myself for not having achieved a certain milestone or goal. So instead of viewing these delays as something negative, seeing them as something positive. So you change your relationship with them and see it as, oh, okay, great, there's a lesson to be learned. And when I learn this lesson, maybe the goal that I will achieve, like it will inevitably come. Like that's the most important part, like trusting that it will come. But I also often like to think like maybe something so incredible that I cannot even imagine right now is going to happen. And that's why this delay is taking place, which is also like really, really beautiful. So it really helps me personally to view these delays and detours as an incredibly valuable part of my journey. So, yeah, I think it's all in the end about deeply trusting that your time of rising and thriving and achieving what you want is on its way. And you have the power to make that happen if you believe it and if you take action.
I want to emphasize that again because that's a beautiful affirmation that you just mentioned. Things are unfolding for my highest good. That is so, so beautiful on so many levels. And I think that it can be used in so many situations, whether you're impatient, whether you're doubtful, whether you're whatever, kind of the situation is. And that's why, yeah, I just wanted to mention that again. And maybe also for our listeners, I mean, we already mentioned before that we're working on our masterclass, right? And we actually also we put a very tight deadline. We were like, hey, we want to launch it by then.
our
Mastermind,
mastermind,
yes.
yes.
Yeah. And we were,
Woo, the Thrive
yeah,
Circle.
the Thrive Circle, exactly. And we were like, okay,
Right,
we want to launch it by that and that date. And then,
right.
while doing it, we were kind of like, okay, I think we can realign our timeline and
Yeah.
push it back a little bit, and that's fine, And but what we did, we didn't decide it right away. We sat with it. We talked about it, right? And we said, okay, let's think about it. Let's sleep over it for one night, and then we'll inform each other the next day. And that's what we did. And then, yeah, now it feels amazing. I'm like super happy that that we decided to do it this way. And yeah.
I love how you shared it, right? Because it was kind of a like from a previous perspective when we were like, oh my god, like there's so much we need to do, like the schedule is so tight, and we're two people,
Yeah.
and then delaying for me first felt like we're pushing the deadline behind, or the launch, or setting the date of the launch to a
Mhm.
later date than we had originally talked about. It did feel like a delay, so as
Mhm.
something negative at first, but then. Um, Now it really just feels like alignment. Like it feels really, really good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, just like changing your perspective and seeing these delays as something beautiful, and then also shifting your focus and attention on what do you gain through this delay,
Yeah.
right? So we have more time. We can be in more flow. We have less pressure. And honestly, when we think about it, like I mean, we're still gonna live for a long time. I truly believe, right?
Yeah.
So when you think of right now, like one moment of delay can sound like, oh my god, 1 month. That is such a long time frame. But when you think of like the time span of your life in 5 years and 10 years and 30 years, you're probably not gonna be like, oh, this 1 month, like
Yeah.
we should have launched like 1 month earlier.
Yeah.
Like it's just a month.
Yeah.
So sometimes it just helps really to sit back. And I love what we did. That's like what I always do. Like when there's a big decision to be made, not make it like instantly based on like this initial negative feeling that might pop up, but really like sleep over it and then feel into the intuition. And I love that we both had the same intuition to,
Yeah.
delay our launch, and it felt so good, and it
Yeah.
feels so good. Like I know we made the right
Yeah.
decision. So
Yeah.
yeah, just a beautiful reminder that delays are nothing bad. Things do not always go as expected, but there is so much beauty and so much more that you may gain from that. And delaying and detours can actually be more alignment.
100%. And it also goes back to all of this, like living in now, like in this, like, because you just also said it, in if you're 90 and you look back on your life, that 1 month doesn't matter. In the now, it did matter though, so in the now, it kind of did matter for us, but that's okay. And but it's like, and I think that's why not to forget, like, kind of the now, but also to forget that perspective of, like, what does it actually mean in the big picture and for the vision
Yes.
of that you set yourself. And yeah. Yeah. So, I think this was a really, really beautiful episode, and like this is such a fun conversation because, and I love it that you also pointed out in the end again, like kind of it's really about trusting in your own timeline, right? And it's really about this like whole aspect of trust, and which I'm also, it's like one of my highest values is trust, but it's also something I struggle with. So I think that's why it's such a big value for me, and that's why, yeah, this was also, yeah, such a beautiful episode. And in the end, we always prepare something, right, that we want to give our audience, so that they can take with them after the episode. And I believe today that you've prepared something beautiful, in line of our theme. So yes, please. What are we going to learn today, or what are we going to take with us?
Right. So I prepared a short exercise to, in a way, practice more patience. But really, what this exercise is about is to empower you to build more trust and confidence in your own timeline, even when you're dealing with delays, detours, or are feeling behind in life.
Mhm.
So many of us really are used to seeing life as a journey of achieving these milestones, as we've shared earlier during this episode, right? So it's always like a lot of people have this mentality of like it's constant race, like it's supposed to achieve this milestone and that milestone. They're always like chasing, hunting these milestones, milestone after milestone, which can of course lead to a lot of pressure and stress and so on. And I think this, yeah, just this kind of mentality leads to a lot of negative can lead to a lot of negative emotions and make us feel like we're failing or we're behind, we are late. But progress is really not linear, right? Growth is like a roller coaster ride, like we always say, with ups and downs and
And
different
meetings.
phases. And what I really want to invite, like, I really want to invite you, our beautiful audience, to really see, instead of seeing life as this race of achieving milestones, to view life as something that is cyclical, right? Just like the four seasons in life. So we always have these cycles that are repeating themselves.
Mm.
So life really is cyclical if we think about it. It moves in phases of growth, rest, reflection, and renewal. And every single season has its own purpose. And seeing life in this way really helps you to stop judging yourself and your timing. And it can really help you and empower you to start trusting the flow in your own timeline. And to also to realize that even the slow and quiet seasons where you're not constantly taking action are really actually preparing you for what's next, and really to remind yourself that these are also really valuable phases, inevitable phases of your growth journey and of your journey of achieving what you want. So first, I want to invite you, or I want you to think of a goal that you're trying to achieve, where you feel like, or it may even be a larger dream or a vision, where you feel like you're behind. And then once you've really identified this goal or larger dream or vision, I want you to reflect on the question, like, which season do you think you're currently in? So briefly to go through the four seasons. So let's think of it as the four seasons, right? So spring is the season of planting seeds. And I know, Mika, you love this expression, planting seeds.
Yeah.
The spring is really the season of planting seeds. What does this mean? This means like it's really the seasons of new beginnings and possibilities. And I love the word possibility, so this really excites me. So this is all, but it really always starts in your mind, because what you can imagine, what you can believe, you can create. So I love to think about the new beginnings, like planting seeds, is like having ideas, creating a goal, creating a vision. So this is spring for me. And really, because before you can take any action, you need to have this idea, right? And once you have this idea, that's when you can start taking like small steps or later bigger steps to achieve what you want. So spring, if you think of it spring, then just to give you a few examples, um, this might be the idea of starting a new business, signing up for a new course, trying out new habits, meeting people who inspire you. So really, it's that phase of I have an idea, I have a goal, I have a dream, and then it's about starting taking small action steps. And even if you don't see the results yet, it's really about setting the foundation for what's going to come after. Now, the next season is summer. I love summer and sunshine. Summer is the season of growth. So, summer is the season where energy is high. Like ideas are taking root, momentum is building, you're really taking action, action, action. Opportunities are coming up. So, really, summer is the season of action, consistency, and nurturing your progress, right? So this may be, for instance, to make it more relatable, maybe you're constantly working out. Like you already have this goal, you want to lose weight. Like this is the phase where you're really like hitting the gym or going to yoga classes, like really, really taking action, right? Or it may be you had this idea in spring to build this business, and in summer you start really taking the bigger steps of starting your business, right? Or making it real, making it happen, making it tangible. It might be a season of deepening your relationship or whatever goal that might be. Then comes fall, the harvesting season. And this is where you begin to see tangible results. So the work that you've done starts to pay off, lessons crystallize, and you can really enjoy the fruits of your efforts. So maybe we can think of apples, right? They they come to us in fall, the presents of apples. So maybe this is the time when your new business becomes like you sign your first new clients, or you land that new job, you finally hit your business goals, whatever that So you're really reaping the rewards of the hard work that you've been putting in. And it's also always a good time to reflect upon the questions: what worked well, what didn't, what do I want to adjust or carry on forward into the next cycle. And then we have winter, which is a phase of rest and integration. And often, this is really the hardest season to trust because on the surface, it feels like nothing is happening, right? Like the trees, they're empty, the leaves
Mm.
are falling. Um, but actually, if we think of it, winter is a season of deep inner work and reflection. It's really the season where, because also of the weather, depending on where you live, you're forced to recharge and really spend more time with yourself. And this can really help you to bring more awareness to what's been hindering you, to release what's no longer serving you, whether it's beliefs, whether it's fears, emotional, behavioral patterns, like all of the things that don't serve you, like the leaves of the tree, letting that go. Um, so that means, like, to give you an example, again, maybe you're in between jobs and you're taking time to heal after you've quit a job that really wasn't for you. Maybe you're slowing down after a burnout, or maybe you're just taking the time to heal after a hard breakup. Right? Really, the time of introspection and doing the deep inner work. So it's not so much about external work, but I feel like it's a lot about doing the internal work that is always beautiful and important. So, now that I've explained the four seasons, I want to invite you, beautiful audience, to take a moment again to reflect on your life as a series of seasons, each with its own rhythm and purpose. And when you view your journey, your life in this way, you start to see that even the pauses and the slower moments are part of the bigger picture. So, I want to invite you to bring to mind one goal where you felt like, or where you're feeling like you're behind, or you're too late. And I want to encourage you to ask yourself these following two questions. And the first is, what season are you in right now? Is it spring, new beginnings and ideas? Is it summer, the season of growth and momentum? Is it fall, the season of harvesting and results? Or is it winter, a phase of rest, introspection, integration, and doing the And the second question I want you to ask yourself is, how is this season helping you to grow, prepare, or gain clarity for your goal or your vision? And what is this season teaching you? So really pause, breathe, and notice that timing isn't something to rush or fight. And just remind yourself that you are exactly where you need to be. And the season you're in is giving you exactly what you need to move forward. It doesn't always look like determination when you're reaping the benefits. And remember always to fully trust in your own timeline. To really trust that what you want is on its way. And remember that you are the powerful creator of your own reality who can create whatever vision it is you have. So, this is the exercise that I wanted to share with our beautiful audience today.
Ah, it's really beautiful because I mean everyone can relate to those seasons, right? And two things that I had to think about is that each season can be a different length, right? Spring can sometimes be 2 weeks and sometimes it can be 6 months. And sometimes winter will be 2 weeks or it will be, I don't know, a year or whatever. So I think that's so like nice to kind of have these seasons. And the other thing is like every season has its beauty, right? Every season has like it's like of course, oh, endless summer would be amazing, but you know what? A winter is just as beautiful if you lean into it, like you told us, you know? If you really like, if you accept it and you look at that season as for what it is. And yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you. Um,
Sure. And like really to see the purpose in every phase
yes.
and every season. I think that is really the beauty and the power that really can help you. This mindset can help you to really develop more patience and I think
Hmm.
more trust, even when you're going through the winter season and it feels like you're far away from reaping the fruits. No, you will go through the seasons.
Yeah. And
And
another,
spring will come inevitably. Summer will come, and then fall will come.
yeah.
And it's okay if you fall back to winter because life is cyclical, and you will go through these phases again and again. And no season is good or bad. All of them are part of a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful life journey that
Yeah.
are sometimes messy but beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, that's really, yeah, thank you. So, so beautiful. So, before we wrap up, we're going to give you a sneak peek of what's happening in our next episode. And next time, we would like to talk about the psychology of self sabotage, and why we actually get in our own way. And I think this is really powerful stuff because it's a topic that also I really let that I think about a lot because it's kind of like this, like making the subconscious aware and like kind of the consciousness of life, and that's yeah. So that's really going to be very powerful because we're going to dive into our hidden patterns that keep us stuck, and that actually many of these like self-sabotaging behaviors actually start in, you've guessed it, childhood, and that they're formed from like former beliefs and like fears and coping strategies so that we've developed to feel safe, accepted, or loved. And we're going to break down how these subconscious patterns show up in our daily life. And most importantly, we're also going to give some tips or like, yeah, to kind of show how we can overcome them so that you can finally move forward with confidence. So yeah, don't miss this one. It could really completely change the way you approach your goals. I am very excited about this. Thank you so much for today's episode. So let's trust in our divine timeline and yeah, speak to you very, very soon.
Until next time, keep on rising, growing, and thriving.